Just me, a place to be me, where you get to experience life. 'Cause life is a journey, not a guided tour. If you want the rainbow, you have to go through the rain. Hey guys, welcome back. Welcome back. Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Just Me podcast. So, last month in May, we discussed and we honored mothers and we honored women. And so, for the month of June, in recognition of Father's Day, we're going to show acknowledgement to men and fathers. So, over the next few weeks, we're going to be discussing the following topics surrounding the importance of men's mental health and what women observe as important. We're going to talk about women's perspective and giving advice for men and their mental health around dating, especially post COVID. And then also, we're going to be discussing men who are in marriage. And we're also going to be discussing fathers, especially with post COVID, and what type of perspectives or advice we can support as men go through this transition with fatherhood, with marriage, sometimes even divorce. So we're really trying to kind of shine light on some of these concerns within the community or topics within the community and how we can uplift men. Because a lot of times, if one part of our family dynamic is struggling, it can create a breakdown in the entire family development. So without further ado, we have four licensed behavioral health professionals here with us today, who have been in the field for various numbers of years and who are going to kind of just briefly introduce themselves and how they relate to this topic. And then we're just going to get started with some questions, okay? All right. So if Miss Denise could introduce herself first.
Sure. So, hi, everyone. My name is Denise, and I am a licensed clinical social worker. I've been working in the field for a couple of years now, particularly with adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities, as well as individuals of all ages, children and adults, and family therapy.
Thank you. Miss Aaliyah?
Hi, everyone. I'm Miss Aaliyah. I am a licensed, excuse me, I am a licensed clinical social worker. I've worked with, I've been in the field for about 10 years, previously working at group homes, being started as just a regular staff, and then I transitioned into the licensed professional at a few group homes, and now working as a therapist with Journeys. My target audience, who I've mostly worked with, are children and adolescents. I've also had experience with working with adults. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. All right, Jasmine.
Hi, everyone. My name is Jasmine. I am a therapist and social worker that enjoys working with children, adolescents, and young adults. And I really pride myself on helping them overcome obstacles and challenges that they face in their everyday lives.
Thank you. And Shayla.
Hello, everyone. My name is Shayla, and I am a clinical social worker. I work with people all across the lifespan. So, from the beginning of age of, I think my youngest has been 3. My oldest has been somewhere around in their 60s, close to 70. So, I'm geared to work with anyone.
Awesome. Thank you so much, ladies, for introducing yourself. So we're going to go ahead and dive right in. There have been several trends over the years. And one of the most recent trends that we've noticed, especially on social media, is this idea that men are going through and shining a little more light on being emotionally aware and in touch with themselves. So with that being said, one of the first questions that I have is, what do you think is the importance of men's mental health, and what does that look like? That's the question again. What is the importance of men's mental health, and what roles and responsibilities have you witnessed men holding over the years as it relates to that?
From what I've seen, I would see a lot of just unresolved trauma that men have gone through that comes to light later on. I know just a couple personal experience. I've seen people give father figures, stepfathers, their flowers because they couldn't do it in the past. So now they're learning to, okay, this man was here to help me all this time. Stuff like that that was unresolved. That's now, okay, I'm older now. I realize this. I can talk to this person. I can open up. I can just let go whatever I had going on then and release it now. So I think mental health in men and now I think it's being more accepting for them. So yeah.
Okay, thank you, thank you. And just in general, what types of different roles, Miss Jasmine, what types of different roles have you seen men play within the community?
Yeah, so as far as men in the community, we usually know them as providers, as the leader of the households that help determine those goals for their families. We see them kind of as that rock that sometimes helps hold the family together in different ways than women do. And so I think that's why men's mental health has been pushed under the rug for so long. And as Aaliyah said, why it's so important and why we should be way more accepting of it than we have been in the past.
And this question is for just anybody. Everyone's professional opinion, what changes have you seen in men's mental health and mental well-being pre-pandemic versus post-pandemic? So as you guys have been in the community, as you guys have been in the office, at home, what types of differences have you seen with men's overall mental health and wellness?
I would say pre-pandemic, I mean, there was always this stigma about men with health, like not liking to go to the doctor, specifically. And I think post-pandemic, now you see more awareness, more willingness for men to like acknowledge and either go to a healthcare provider or even seek mental health services.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry. Can I chime in on that too?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. Pre-pandemic, I did see that, as Denise was saying, that there was a lack of care for the health, mind, body. And then comes the pandemic. Everybody wants to get in shape, be better with their mental health. But now I'm starting to see a decline in mental health with men. At the rate that they're now like, oh, well, I'm okay. The pandemic is over, and now I'm back stuck where I was before.
Mm, okay, okay. Can anyone else chime in on that or elaborate on that? Because that's important. Absolutely. A lot of times we see these viral trends and these trends overall, and we get these momentum, get energized, and then there's a fall off. Has anyone else noticed the fall off or what that looks like?
I would say I feel like I have noticed the fall off. As everyone's mentioned, I think we're talking about it more, but being stagnant and what are we doing about it in a way? You're hearing it in music more. People are saying that they feel depressed. They're talking about being anxious. Rappers and stuff, you didn't hear that. But we're not following up with, okay, what do I do after that?
Yeah, great point. Aaliyah, go ahead.
Um, I think I saw um, a kind of positive side to the pre-pandemic, post-pandemic. I saw more responsibility. I saw more like leadership. For me, it was seeing my husband go to the store and take care of all the groceries to protect me and my son from getting all the germs and stuff. So I saw him taking that responsibility, that leadership role, and then till today it still is going up. So I saw a positive impact from the pre-pandemic. and then post-pandemic.
Yeah. It's kind of funny how people's behaviors just continue to change based on the environments around us. So, what were some unhealthy ways that you saw men coping during the pandemic? Um, Ms. Denise, what were some of those unhealthy ways that you saw men coping during the pandemic?
I would say a lot of it was just isolation. Um, so high stress levels, we all love being with our partners, but every day, all day can be a little detrimental to the relationship, not having that space to be apart. Um, but then social isolation from, their places of work. A lot of people were working from home, not being able to like go and be amongst their group of friends. So you saw a lot of unhealthy habits like drinking or overeating, and things of that nature.
Yeah. Can anyone share some of the things that you saw in the office or virtually as far as unhealthy coping skills? Any other unhealthy coping skills?
I definitely agree with Denise that I think it was an increased amount of alcoholism, as well, a lot of overindulging in food. I mean, because you're home all day, what else is there to do? Some people did take the opportunity to be able to go outside and enjoy nature and do some of those things. But for people who were not like that beforehand, they didn't take that road. They just kind of isolated in and withdrew in even more.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So yeah, go ahead. So the pandemic has created a lot of trauma in people's lives. Definitely has been something that we have not seen in our lifetime. So this was a first. And has brought up a lot of other relationship traumas, physical traumas, emotional traumas. So can you give me some examples from you guys' perspective, based on working with men? What types of traumas have been brought up based on some of the things that we have seen or experienced during the pandemic?
Um, I would say definitely communication. Um, it was probably a lack of it. Um, uh, the small things matter to some people. Some it may not matter to everybody, but it does matter to some people. And I think you have to acknowledge that, especially if that's expressed. But all around communication skills, um, just unhealthy arguments, uh, disagreements. So all around communication, definitely.
Yeah, yeah. And we didn't have that opportunity to kind of leave the house or take a breather or step outside. So we were forced to have these conversations. But if we didn't have healthy examples of how to communicate effectively, then that creates that cycle of just kind of re-traumatizing ourselves and re-traumatizing our partners. And I say trauma in the sense that poor problem solving and in
Mm-hmm.
creating additional stressors in other areas of our life instead of
Mm-hmm.
addressing some of the stressors right then and there.
Mhm.
Any
And
other examples?
also during the pandemic, as we expressed earlier, a lot of people pretty much sit with themselves or were isolated. And when that happens, a lot of unresolved trauma from childhood comes up. And so basically what we saw with some men is that unresolved trauma, childhood concerns, and being with their own children was very triggering to them, where it affected how they communicated with their children, how they dealt with their children during the pandemic. That's one thing. And another thing is, as I said before, with unresolved trauma, just within the pandemic, you didn't have a lot of control. So basically, when people do not, whenever they feel fearful and they don't have control, there are times when a lot of aggressive behavior shows up. And those were similar things that we saw within men and still now as it relates to coming out the pandemic. So it's been very difficult for them to navigate through their roles as being a father and being a husband and working in the workforce, just really trying to navigate through those roles, but yet still trying to bring closure to unresolved trauma and adjusting to the changes.
And when we say unresolved trauma, it is that essence of really accepting some of the things you experienced as a child and doing some things differently or learning some things differently in order to help future generations. So again, conflict resolution. Well, how do I tell my child who has been in the house all day and jumping off the walls to sit down and have those loving conversations or allow them to express their emotions in a healthy way? Because my parents didn't allow me to do that. They just told me to sit down and be quiet. So it's really grappling with and going back and forth between, all right, this is what I know. I don't want to be like that because that's how I was raised. But then also, I don't know anything different, and this is a stressful environment. So, okay, all right. Well, we're going to continue this conversation next week, and we're going to talk a little bit about men and dating. So thank you guys so much for joining us, and I definitely look forward to seeing you guys next week so that we can further have this interesting dialogue. Until next time, take care of yourself so that we can all take care of each other. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to Just Me Therapy podcast. If you are seeking further one-on-one diagnoses, interventions, and treatment plans, please consider scheduling an appointment with an individual counselor at Journeys Counseling Center, located in Greensboro, North Carolina. Journeys can be reached at 336-294-1349. The mission of Just Me Therapy podcast is to use authentic conversations to uplift one's mind, body, and soul. The goal of Just Me Therapy is to offer affordable education and insight to individuals who experience financial barriers to accessing individualized behavioral health care services. With that being said, the information, including opinions, advice, and recommendations discussed in this podcast, are intended for individual, informational, and educational purposes only. Such information is not intended to substitute the recommendations of your own licensed therapist or healthcare professional. Although we are licensed behavioral health professionals, we are not your licensed behavioral health professional. As a result, the advice mentioned on this podcast should not replace the recommendations offered by your own qualified health professional.